When most of us imagine extreme wealth, we picture a vault. We assume that being a billionaire means sitting on an endless mountain of cash, free from mortgages, credit cards, and debt of any kind. Yet the financial reality of the ultra-wealthy is often the exact opposite. When a billionaire decides to buy a massive yacht or a private jet, they frequently pay for it with a multi-million-dollar bank loan. To understand why, we have to look at how extreme wealth is actually structured. Billionaires rarely keep their fortunes sitting in checking accounts. Their net worth is tied up in illiquid assets, things like corporate stock, real estate portfolios, and private businesses that cannot easily be handed over to a cashier. Because their money is locked inside these vehicles, they operate in a state of being asset-rich but cash-poor. If they want to spend money on their actual lifestyle, they face a severe liquidity problem. The logical answer to this problem seems simple. If you need cash, just sell some of the stock or property. But looking at this chart, you can see the immediate penalty of liquidation. Selling an asset triggers capital gains taxes. The government instantly confiscates a huge percentage of wealth the moment a sale is finalized. Then comes the more permanent penalty. Selling kills the golden goose. You forfeit the future growth and compounding profits the asset would have generated. For someone trying to maintain and expand a financial empire, liquidating assets to pay for a lifestyle is destructive to long-term net worth. This dilemma leads the ultra-wealthy directly to private wealth managers at elite banking institutions, where they negotiate a completely different approach to accessing cash. They use a strategy called asset-backed leverage. Instead of selling a stock portfolio or a commercial building, they pledge that asset to the bank as collateral for a massive line of credit. This diagram illustrates exactly why the strategy works. The U.S. tax code, like many others around the world, does not classify borrowed money as income. Because loans aren't income, billionaires can access millions of dollars in spending power completely tax-free. By routing their liquidity through a bank loan instead of a sale, they transform debt from a financial burden into a tool that keeps their wealth out of reach of the tax collector. Avoiding taxes is highly lucrative, but the real power of this strategy comes from ownership. Because the asset was only pledged as collateral and never sold, the billionaire retains 100% of their original holdings. This chart maps out the underlying math required to make the strategy succeed. The steep green line is the annual growth rate of the asset, while the shallow red line is the low interest rate charged by the bank. As long as the asset grows faster than the interest accumulates, the system works. The compounding growth of the portfolio outpaces the cost of the debt. Over time, the profits generated by the underlying asset can pay off the cost of the loan entirely. If the math holds, billionaires are technically generating new wealth at the exact same time they are spending millions of dollars. When you step back and look at the broader economy, you start to see a stark divide in how different groups interact with the banking system. In the middle class, borrowing is often a survival mechanism to cover basic expenses, or a way to buy depreciating liabilities, things like cars or electronics that lose value the second they leave the store. The financial elite borrow exclusively against strong, appreciating assets. They use debt to maintain their liquidity while letting their wealth grow in the background. Debt itself is neutral. It is simply an amplifier. If it is backed by depreciating liabilities, it accelerates poverty. If it is backed by strong assets, it accelerates wealth. But attempting to borrow money without holding powerful appreciating assets is dangerous. Relying on credit without a solid foundation underneath it leads to financial ruin. The billionaire playbook depends on one strict prerequisite. They painstakingly build and acquire assets before they ever step foot in a loan office. You cannot bend the rules of money to your advantage until you own the very assets that the banking system values as collateral. Taking out loans is easy. The true strategy is learning how to stay highly liquid in the present without ever giving up ownership of your future.